Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at United Health. It is time for another update, and today we'll be discussing the relevant resistance and support levels to be tracking internally within this area. Actually maybe even the larger area to be a focus. And we will also be looking for likely interpretations that could allow us to have a better idea of what we should expect to happen, to occur within this structure. Now, before we get there, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are tracking this double 1-2-1-2 setup, a third wave up, and now we are tracking this wave 4 correction, which, as highlighted for quite a while now, it is highly preferred that we would actually see an extension within this wave 4. And in fact, ever since, actually even before we have formed this initial 5-wave move to the downside, we have been considering the possibility of such a pattern that would then expect a 3-wave correction to the upside and another 5-wave move to the downside, because from an Elliott wave perspective, we expect that after an initial 5-wave move in a trend direction, we get a 3-wave correction and then another 5-wave move in said direction. Now this is expected both in an impulse, in a motive pattern, and also within an ABC structure. That is called a zigzag correction. This is what we are tracking here on this chart within this larger wave 4 in green, and this will remain the main scenario either until we break here the area of resistance that is now between the $342 all the way up to the $510. So here we break above the 78.6% retracement, or we actually fulfill this structure to the downside and actually complete the pattern. And probably that's not even a point we wouldn't track this scenario anymore. It would just be a point this scenario would be done, and we would consider a bottom within this wave 4 much more likely. And to be clear, the market can always do what it wants. We can have even different interpretations, but this is actually a decently clear structure, and from a probabilistic perspective, this is what we should be prepared with the highest possibility outcome of what we can really track on this chart. Now, with that said, within this area in the wave B, we technically could have already topped. It is very much possible for me to track this as an ABC movement to the upside, although if I am to be honest, I do probably prefer the idea of tracking this as a 1, 2, 3, 4th and the 5th within this area, where I would consider even a smaller time frame initial leading diagonal in a wave A, in which case after this wave B correction I would like still to see another high within this area of resistance in white in a wave C, causing here a reset within this larger wave B in white. Now in this interpretation we have been looking for this idea in yellow, and we have this area of support to be tracking for the larger wave B between the $316.7 level all the way down to the $260 level at the 78.6% retracement. And this is basically a reverse of the scenario we are tracking on the larger time frame in white. We have a larger leading diagonal to the downside that has occurred in, probably this is a much more clear structure in the white scenario in this wave A to the downside than in this wave A in yellow to the upside, but it is in the end a decently similar structure that we can track for a larger pattern that would allow again another 5-wave move to the upside within a wave C. So this is expected even on a smaller scale. Even within this wave B, we are tracking ideally this yellow interpretation in a zigzag correction, although again it is possible for me to be tracking this wave B as a 3-wave move. I am watching out still for even a direct extension within the wave C, and honestly we can even gauge here an ideal target for the wave C, assuming that we have already topped within the wave B, where if we actually form another high, we would also need to change the expectations, the ideal target for the wave C to the downside as well. And here the ideal target for the wave C at the moment is the $142 level. That is the 100% extension of the wave A. Although, as I always say, we don't need to get there and we don't need to stop there. That is just an ideal target that we tend to track. If we look also from a larger time frame perspective, we also have quite significant structural support within this area here, firstly around the $210 level, and then additionally quite a significant level here at around the $187 level basically. Now, with that said, we can go back to the internal count, to the internal structure we are tracking here on the smaller time frame. And within this pattern to the downside, I am already considering a possible bottom within wave B. Technically, we had here an initial 5-wave move to the downside. This was actually a decent structure that we were able to track. And it has even more than one ways we could consider this a full structure to the downside at the moment. I am tracking it as a diagonal pattern, but it doesn't really matter. It is done. It is considered a wave A, and then we have here a wave B to the upside and a wave C down. In this interpretation, we have a wave B in place, and we don't need any additional lows. Then, on an even smaller scale, in the white interpretation, we were tracking, since this could have been easily a double 1-2-1-2 setup, we were tracking in a white interpretation that would have allowed a more direct breakdown, a potential internal 1-2 setup in a larger wave 3. Now, this would have been the wave 3 of the larger wave C in white, although even though we did get rejected here initially within the area of resistance in a wave 2, the 78.6% retracement did create this more significant reaction, and even along the way we can see how these levels did create the reactions that caused downside afterwards. Even though these happened, we did manage to break out, firstly above the area of resistance, and as always, breaking the levels of resistance is a signal that this structure is not going to hold, is a signal that the probability is rather inclined to form even another high, even completely invalidate this 1-2 setup, and so we did once we actually broke here above the beginning of the wave 1, and now we can actually remove this internal idea for an impulse forming to the downside within the wave C in the third wave. And we have been tracking here in the larger wave C to the upside as well, a potential impulse to be forming, and unfortunately, even though there are scenarios that could even still allow such a pattern to work out, it is not necessarily a high probability for me, because here initially we might have even formed a 5-wave move to the upside, but then we failed to hold it. We broke below, we didn't manage to form here an internal 1-2 setup that would hold and continue higher. So now I am really left with a couple of options. So to the upside, I have the possibility of tracking this as an ABC movement very, very easily. This structure is very much in place, doesn't need any additional highs, and could be considered either part of a larger correction or of a larger diagonal pattern within the wave C in yellow. It is unfortunate and nothing really we can do about that. Although, at the moment I have still the possibility of tracking here an internal 1-2 setup. Although, if we are to be tracking here such an area of support, we would notice that we did push perfectly into the 78.6% retracement, and once that happened, we failed. We did get a reaction, so sure, we did get quite a significant and nice reaction, but we failed to create a full 5-wave move to the upside. We didn't get to the 4th and the 5th. We created the likely part, the probable part, which is a 3-wave move correction that I would call now. And based on this decline in the last day, I would have to guess that this structure is likely not going to work out. We did manage to hold initially, but we failed to create a reliable pattern to the upside that would have allowed us to track continuation higher. And now we have probably even broken here below the area of support for a possible 1-2 setup within even a diagonal pattern. We did get a couple of breaks below it, nothing too significant, but honestly, based on the structure, I would be rather prepared than not to actually see and face a complete failure of this potential 1-2 setup, which is honestly why we won't even be keeping here this on the chart. And we will be tracking here this idea of a larger ABC movement. And again, this could be a wave 1, it could be, but I also need to consider this larger resistance area that could actually still allow us to either push directly in a white interpretation in an ending diagonal in the wave C in a 1-2 setup. This could still work out, or even an AB movement that could still take us in a wave C into the area of support in the yellow interpretation once again. And I want to move this a little bit over, just to overlap better with our future movements, future possible dips again into this area of support, which at this point, it is a preferred scenario for me. So I have only an ABC movement to the upside. It is possible for us to continue here in a wave C in such an uptrend, although not necessarily a particularly high probability. And yeah, sure, we can look here for a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can track an internal area of support. But again, this is not a particularly high probability setup. This is not an area to look for a position necessarily. Yeah, maybe if we push back into the larger area of support in yellow while still holding this smaller area of support, it is not necessarily within as high of a risk region. But from a larger time frame perspective, I am prepared mostly either for a larger ABC movement or even the wave C in white to occur. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover. And I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.